What are those things? He said. What are those things that we've done, Kirk? That would at least make you, what are those things, Kirk? I know God. Now, Kirk, we all know that's a difficult task, and one that few people would dare say they have accomplished. So how can you say that? Well, God tells us to know Him, so it's doable. He wouldn't tell us to do something if He couldn't do it. Yeah. Fill me in, Kurt. How do you mean? He tells us we can know Him. Well, I'll give you an example. A sharp arrow that hit my heart back years ago, many years ago. It was when I was just a young man. I was the age when people my age were graduating from college. I saw people my age graduating from college. And here, a smart guy, I wasn't graduating. I got to thinking, man, I made a big mistake. You see, I pushed aside college to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? I suppose I know what you mean. You're going to have to fill me in on that too. But let's stick to the question, okay? Absolutely. Four years before that, I had given up the idea of going to college. To move to a communal house, 150 miles away from home, where there were people who had made the decision, made some kind of vow or whatever, that they were going to be disciples of Jesus Christ. That's all that Jesus talked about. There, I'm filling you in on what a disciple is all about. Okay, they claimed, and to my satisfaction proved, that that's 99% of what Scripture talks about as far as following Jesus. It only mentions even the word Christian twice, a couple times, and one of those contexts it's suffering as a Christian. Well, nowadays the only suffering going on vis-a-vis Christians is people suffering under Christians, as far as I can tell. So, 4 years later, and some of those guys, disciples, went to college. Part of me couldn't fathom that someone whom God had made so remarkably intelligent, God himself wouldn't send to college. Now that was one of the rubs. Okay. The other one was I wasn't making much money either. And I wasn't laying the groundwork for making much money in my life. And early 20s, that's when you lay the groundwork. You see, as funny as it sounds, as strange as it sounds, as quasi-blasphemous as it sounds, I knew my career was Jesus Christ. You're gonna have to explain that one, buddy. Alright, well, after that clip is pulled out of context and distributed around the world, let's say a guy's chosen career is electrical engineer. So, he says, well, I'm going to study to be an electrical engineer. I'm going to study electrical engineering. That's going to be my career. Well, translate that, just put that through the sieve of what I just said. My career is Jesus Christ. I'm going to study Jesus Christ. A couple in the audience have just cried foul already. Because they're going to say, well, no. Following through on that, on your story there, you would be studying Jesus Christing. There was only one, Jesus Christ. And the blood that flowed through his veins and that spilled over it, and that he bled, it spilled over his body in the sacrifice that he put on, that he performed, that he did under the orders of his Father, is the blood that saves me. And we can get into the whole covenant thing there if we want. But you become a follower, you're doing that Lord's table thing. You become blood brothers with that guy. Well, so anyway, getting back to studying Jesus and knowing him, I wanted to get as close to him as possible without, in my mind or anybody's mind, pushing him out of the way. I mean, that's what people do all day, night and day, all day long, is push God out of the way. Tell him to shut up or ignore him and all that. But to know God, you got to know the only person who knows God. You see? And Jesus himself, Jesus said, no man knows the Father except the Son. And whoever the Son is willing to reveal him to. And here's a twist. No man knows the Son except the Father. Period. People go on and on about how they're getting to know Jesus. And the scripture talks about that. But here in this one place, Jesus, the Son, said, no one knows him except the Father. No one. So I came to grips with that in my discipleship unto my Master, Jesus. My career was sticking to him like being with him, understanding why he gave certain commands and doing those commands, and then understanding even better after I did it why he said to do it. A lot of this was through church, through being with other disciples, and learning from people who had been his disciple for a number of years. So, getting to know God. I came face to face, over and over, with, here I want to know Jesus, and this thing is starting in me of the Father. And this is a spiritual thing. It doesnned make sense to the head. Well, at first everything makes sense to the head because, of course you understand everything. But then it doesn't work out and you do something that God says to do, like lay your life at his feet. Then you start to get to know Jesus, and he starts taking you to his Father. And all of a sudden you got two of these guys to deal with, Father and Son. And then things start happening. Why? Because everything was created by the Father, through the Son, for the Son, as a love gift. That's a good place to cut, huh?